Hi guys, how are you? I am here with the lovely Loana.
Hi, hello.
And Genevieve isn't here.
She's here in spirit.
She's here in spirit, everyone.
A very close spirit.
You can almost hear her.
There you go. Yeah, if you really think she has to go home and do something. So it's just me. So we're all on a loop. So we don't know what we're going to do. We don't have mother telling us what to do. Anyway, I don't know how to do this. So you got to bear with me here.
Oh.
If anybody says anything. Oh, comments. That's nice.
Yeah, just the ticker's on.
Okay. So just in case anybody says anything.
Oh.
So yes, hi, welcome to Parlour Tea, and we're with our lovely new friend Loana. And why don't you tell people about yourself before we go into the talk?
Okay. I'm a mom of two lovely children. I have a wonderful husband named Paul, and a cool Rottweiler lab mix named Shadow.
Yeah.
And one day I happened to be walking in Red Bank on my day off, and I decided to come into the parlor. And in Keyport. Mom
okay.
brain. Anyway, in Keyport, and I wanted to see what happened to my friend's old store. And my friend used to own this space where the parlor is now. Her parents used to own it when we were in high school. I wanted to see what happened to it, and lo and behold, it was the wonderland that I now call the parlor. So, yes, and I've kind of made myself a fixture here for the last couple of weeks, checking
We're
out.
fine with that. She's her family is lovely. And then as it went along, we started to have a conversation. At first it was with Danny and her, and then it was with me and you.
Yes.
And then Genevieve came into the equation, and everybody hit it off. So the reason why Loana's on here is that she's going to do a podcast.
Yes.
And I don't want to take the drum roll away from you, so you could tell everybody what it is.
Okay. Currently, I'm developing a podcast, and it's called Momster Mash, and it's for moms who love horror and anyone else who also loves the genre. For all of us to come together, mash together, and have a space to have dialogue about horror-related film and literature, the paranormal, the supernatural. I highlight moms because when I started becoming a mom, I've always loved horror, and when I became a mom, I kind of felt like part of me was like I'm losing a part of myself.
Right.
So, I decided to, dig my heels in and find different ways that I could still enjoy horror and kind of incorporate it and weave it into being a mom. And
right.
I found that I have kind of a unique perspective on horror now that I'm a mom. So I like to talk about that.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I met her kids. Their kids are wonderful. Hi, Rachel. That's my friend, Rachel.
Hi.
She says hello, too. So we thought that it was really very cool because, you could think of it horror in many different ways. You can think of it as, like that stalker, bloody, gory, alien, supernatural, haunted hospitals. You can go on to this plethora of different horror genre that used to be very specific.
Yes.
And now it's branched into more of into our everyday, like Zoom calls, our phones, in the house, in the walls, in the like it's a multitude of horror based off of our everyday. So
Yes.
I just like the concept that you are taking your love for something, but sort of tailoring it to your children to get that same vibe. So there's a big connection. And to me, that's a great mom.
Oh, I
Because I think that, for the love of something, you really wouldn't be able to show it until like later on in their lives. So now you're growing and cultivating, because there is some really great movies, even like the children can get at like Halloween Town, the Halloween Tree.
Oh yeah, Hubie Halloween.
Peanuts. Yeah. Even Spirit Halloween is pretty. It's a cute movie for that camp.
They love Spirit Halloween.
That was a good movie.
Yeah.
Hocus Pocus. Those Hocus Pocus too. The Peanuts. Like bringing back that older kind of a great thing. But I did notice, like, going out and starting to look for Halloween, like props and movie stuff and all that other stuff to sort of decorate. And I love Halloween. Halloween can be 24/7. And the reason why I always say I love Halloween is because I think anybody can be anything they want during that time frame. No one makes fun of, no one belittles, no one says anything. They just have a good time. And that's the way life should be 24/7.
Yep. And I was just about to say, what a wonderful thing it would be if things were always that accepting.
Right.
For a long time, us horror nerds were kind of in the closet, so to speak.
Correct.
But however, people like me who love Halloween 24/7, who wear black probably 80% of their lives, where's the funeral? I don't know.
There you go.
Whose funeral are you going to? Yours.
I always thought, I never thought of I guess I could say I thought black was be goth, but I think black to me in clothing, like when people wear, it's stylish, it's sophisticated, it's sort of elevation of things, depending on like the type. Like this, to me, it's beautiful. So there's
I
Rachel.
feel like black takes on many meanings.
Right, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We all love Halloween.
But I think that, not to get off of the topic of it, but I think that, when people end up having like, I wear black, and it's associated with dark and blah, blah, blah. And I get that piece. But I think a lot of people might wear that kind of thing is because they don't want to be seen, or they want to be seen for their personality. And I think that's a really great way of depicting people, because you shouldn't be looking at the palette. You should be looking what's inside the case. And I think that's a beautiful way of explaining it, because if you shut doors with anything, you never get a chance to meet some amazing people. And we put a storefront, and we have a store, and the attraction that we get people like yourself and your family to come in and tell us their side and their story and their thoughts and how they wanted to live their life with this type of gothy, creepy kind of thing. And your kids love it.
They do.
I mean, they totally love it.
They just accept it, because what's important for me is that my children see my husband and my husband isn't always into this kind of stuff. He'll tell you himself, he watches one of my movies, he needs a nightlight. But my children, I want them to see me as a whole person, as a woman, not just mommy. Because when they grow up, they're going to have the self-respect to have their own hobbies, to like what they like. And it's still okay. And to also have the heart to share what they like, So if they see me doing that and openly doing that, and my husband is supporting it, and, our families are supporting it, then it's a beautiful thing. It teaches them that they don't have to be afraid of who they are, no matter what.
I think that's great. And I think that, and Rachel says I wear black to be seen. Rachel is beautiful inside and out. So she's a beautiful woman. She's got a great soul. But anyway, the concept of like popping popcorn and sitting in front of your your television with your family to watch something that you all chose together. I mean, it might not be that typical kind of thing when
Not
it's a horror
anymore.
movie, but it's still a typical thing in your household that is great.
Yes.
So the concept was that she was, a horror mom is how she,
Horror mom.
she describes herself. And I thought that was really cool and really interesting, how motherhood has evolved into a different way of thinking and a way of still, incorporating the love and the security and the family mentality and
just
it's just a great feeling.
It's a great feeling, and it's a feeling of security. And, that's what you want to impart to your children or to anyone that you love.
Right.
You want to give them that security by showing a piece of yourself. Unfortunately, it does mean being vulnerable, but why does vulnerability have to be something that is, that's unfortunate? It should be something, it's a gift.
Right.
And why not give that to your children, to your husband every day to see parts of who you really are?
It's probably one of the most special times that you probably have, sitting around with your family, laughing, watching television, having that I'm scared, that jolt and the hug and that stuff. I think that's pretty awesome.
We just watched Practical Magic, which isn't scary. However,
I love you too.
We love Practical Magic in our house.
But see, there's many different levels of it. You could go very tiny. You could go full on. And I think as a parent, I'm sure you're really, which is probably why you ended up doing your podcast, is that introducing something into their lives, no matter if it's this, you could incorporate introductions of other things into other people's life that fit more with that child, or and children in your home on many different age groups. So I think that that's really right.
And that's actually a debate that I plan to tackle on one of the episodes of my podcast. What age do you really start your children watching horror? It's not like I plop my kids in front of The Exorcist and say, your babysitter is Reagan today. Have a good time, and put that on. I would never do that. I mean, I would start them off slow. I mean, Disney had a show called Vampirina about a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually a children's book, Vampirina the Ballerina. And, I would show that to my son, and he loved it. And it showed monsters living a family life, just like the Munsters, kind of.
Yeah, you got the Munsters, animated. You got the Addams Family.
Exactly.
You have Real Monsters that was on Nickelodeon.
Oh, they love
adorable. I mean, I wish that that was in the 90s, but I get that. You have all of the Peanuts type things that were during Peanuts. For Halloween. I mean, it's such a staple. Even when I was growing up, I think it started in 1969 or even earlier than that, the Peanuts thing. But it's such a, that's where people start to get their every year we do this. It's the want, the need, the tradition, the what do you call it? And the traditional things are family are different in each family,
but still they're the same because they're all partaking in something.
A group.
Let's take a look at what Halloween means to just the family unit. You were talking about tradition and everything, and things are really different and kind of shaky nowadays. So there's always kind of when times are ambivalent, there's always a kind of need to go back to when America was great. But no, I'm just kidding. But to go back and just kind of relive those traditions and share them with the future, or even make some new traditions.
Right.
But people kind of love the retro Halloween kind of vibe.
Right.
Hello.
Right. I love that.
But relish those things. And people like Rachel, who also loves Halloween.
Yes, Rachel.
I'm sure that she's just loving that.
There's a lot in the in the LGBTQ plus community is they're big on that, because I think that it's like, I don't know, you could be this dark, you could be the light, you could be the evil, you could be the princess, you could be anything you want to be, and it's this childlike attitude that is just accepted all across the board. And tradition is up to a parent, up to parents, to do whatever. Because at the end of the day, all you're doing is exactly what other people do, and you're just watching a different kind of movie.
Right.
People have to stop looking through people's windows and worry about themselves. If you ain't extending a hand and respecting and picking someone up, move it along.
Yeah.
That's what I say. But, I get it. And I love the fact that, you're going to be talking to people about your topics, but maybe you have topics that you might want to throw out that you're going to talk about, or you want to just keep it a little secret?
Right. No, it's not going to be a little secret, because the thing is that even though it's called Momster Mash, and it's kind of my podcast would kind of be geared towards moms and family life, I also love to talk about horror. I love to talk about horror literature. I love to talk about horror film. And you can tell a lot about a society from the type of horror that they watch during different eras.
Right.
For example, like you were talking about queer horror, maybe queer horror movies and stuff like that. And we talk about let's think back into the 80s. In the 80s, there were a lot of vampire movies, weren't there?
Correct.
There are a lot of vampire movies. And what was one of the biggest themes surrounding the 80s that had to do with queer and LGBTQ issues? AIDS.
Yes, absolutely.
Fear of AIDS.
Correct. You're right.
So that the society as a whole kind of used horror to kind of explore those themes and fear around AIDS. And also they had like the movie Fatal Attraction, like kind of those sexual thrillers that were kind of like exciting and almost porny movies, but they weren't. They were sexy thrillers.
Right.
Always the villain or the villainess would be a person that found love and sex outside of the family unit. So what happened to them? They were killed at the end. They were punished. They were seen as the villain. They were seen as bad, to be sexually free, to be sexually aggressive, or assertive, not aggressive. We don't ever want to be sexually aggressive. But so during the 80s, if you take a look at the horror and some of the art that was produced during that time, you start to see that people had an issue with blood. You start to see that people had an issue with the fear of, the other. People had an issue of breaking those family lives and the family unit in Reagan era America.
Right. So, I do believe that, there's certain rotational pieces here. Like you had vampire, and then it went to a little bit of the wolf. A little bit. Because my boys, had very small amount. They don't. Mm-hmm. I mean, you had the Howling, you had American Werewolf in London, you had Wolfen.
Beautiful movies.
Those were great movies. I love the 80s genre of horror because that's just me. Because I think that even though it was filmed with the seriousness of it, it was still a campy to it.
Yes.
And
lots of CGI. No CGI.
No CGI.
No
a lot
CGI.
of that stuff. But then you could go all the way back to the older genre of it. And I think some of the stuff like The Haunting didn't have a lot of their a lot of that CGI special effects. It was all with lighting and shadowing and sort of, so even if it did do something, it happened on screen. Right.
And
so
you'll take a look at even back in the 1930s, I think, King Kong you watch that movie today, it's kind of still holds up, the original King Kong,
Right.
because of all the smoke and mirrors.
Right.
And those people back then didn't know what the heck they were doing, but they used the smoke and mirrors to make everything appear on screen.
Right.
And you don't know those kinds of, because they were old vaudevillian, they had.
Right. I mean, people have to understand a lot of what went on during that time frame.
Mhm.
If you think of it from a like the literature, because that's what it was really. There was literature that was actually turned into that movie. Not saying it's not done now, but the sometimes things don't translate very well from a book into a movie, because sometimes it loses its thing. And if someone didn't read the book, and I can tell you this right off the bat, I didn't read a book. I watched the movie, then read the book, and I was totally like, well, that wasn't my depiction of that character at all. I mean, there's so many ways of going into this, but it's like back then, like everything from Bride of Frankenstein all the way to the Creature from the Black Lagoon. The thought of Creature from the Black Lagoon back then, that was like a manipulated scuba diver outfit that a person had to be under the water during the time frame with things built in. It was it's just amazing. But then you could go all the way over and understand, like, people might think the genre of, like, Shape of Water, when you look at it, it can be considered a horror, but I thought of it as a love story.
Beautiful. It is a love story. But
it's
then,
a beautiful
but
piece.
then they're well,
that's
when
Guillermo del Toro.
It's Guillermo del
Toro. And
I
like, even with that piece
so
is
much.
being, it shows people not looking at somebody. I mean, the person was blind, but to not see that person and see their heart was very poignant to me.
And it's the
most I get it.
But
it was beautiful.
That's often the case in werewolf movies, when you have that duality of the good and the bad. Sometimes you have the tortured soul of, like, Lon Chaney Jr. in the original Wolfman, how he was a good man. He was a good man, but what he turned into was evil.
Right.
And he was so tortured about it because his soul was pure. But even though the man is pure at heart and says his prayers by night, he still becomes a wolf.
Go.
And
hi, Alan.
Hi.
That's our other friend, Alan. And he said hello to Rachel. But I love the fact that you starting off your children into this thing, which technically, it could really spark them reading as well, because certain books are not movies yet.
No, not yet.
And sometimes a movie stinks, but the book is fabulous. So you got to be able to understand, but having that kind of conversation, like you said, you're not having 7-year-olds watching The Exorcist.
Oh, not
at
all.
Or The Omen, or like that. But, they're watching, appropriate introduction into the realm of this. If they don't want to, they're not being forced into it. Oh, no. But it's just.
But it's on.
It's on.
I'm not hiding it.
Right.
I'm not. But those are some other subjects that I would tackle. I mean, if you're a busy mom and you're listening to this podcast, you're not going to sit there and have the time to be listening for an hour to some girl prattle on about some horror film. You got about 25 minutes to keep somebody's attention.
Listen, I always thought of it as, if someone's engaged and it's nothing bad, why not let them watch it? Because exactly. I think what it's doing is it's preparing them for life with certain situations. Exactly. Like you said, that your children, are a little bit more accepting. Yeah. They don't really go, ugh. I get that. And I think that is helping them later on in life to be more adapting and accepting and open to discovering new opportunities, new friends, and new spiritual journey in whatever way they want to go. And I don't think there's restrictions to it.
Yes. And new ideas. And not to have the fear to question some of the things that they see. So, like you were talking about, there are things that you show children that are age appropriate. Well, when I was 7, I saw The Lost Boys, which is my favorite movie. But then I also saw An American Werewolf in London, which is also my favorite movie. They run neck and neck. It depends on.
Well, there you go.
But still, my kids have seen most of American Werewolf in London. There are a couple of parts that I know I won't get sleep, but they love The Lost Boys. We actually put that on in the backyard.
I don't think that The Lost Boys
is a
bad
beautiful story. It's about friendship and brotherhood and what it means, but it's also it also has some homoerotic undertones, but we're not going to talk about that right now.
That's fine about that. But I think that also with The Lost Boys, when I saw it, I had a habit that whenever I saw a name and I loved the name, I went out and I got an animal to match the name. So I had a dog named Nanook.
Oh, Nanook.
So yeah. My
kids met Kiefer Sutherland, so
that's great.
Yeah,
he's not a bad actor. His average thing, like Frontliners, 24 Hours.
Oh yeah, well, my husband saw all of 24. I know, I love Kiefer Sutherland so much. It's kind of sick. But
Lost Boys is great. Yeah. It really is. And I like great. American Werewolf in London.
Oh yeah.
Because technically, I think if you think about it, if you took out of the equation the original Wolfman, and you added into there really wasn't anything for that type of werewolves until story. Was it 1981 or 82 that came out?
Yes.
American Werewolf in London, and it was great. It was a really great movie. The guy visiting him, it was sort of definitely a camp, but the whole thing of him falling on the floor and turning it into the wolf, that was amazing. But I mean, that's on the top end. But then you had The Howling came out
around the same
time, because I think the success of one made the other one come a little bit further. I'm not really sure about that, but The Howling with D. Wallace Stone is one of I love that one.
It is so
it's really good.
And then there's one scene where the werewolves are enjoying each other's company while they're transforming.
In cartoon form.
Everybody loves that.
It was somewhat of a cartoon form.
And at the end, she was so cute when she turned into a werewolf.
She
looked
did.
like a cute little.
She did.
She looked like a cute little Pomeranian. I just wanted to know.
I don't remember if that one came out first before the American Werewolf.
I think they came out around the same time. So a little story or tidbit about the American Werewolf in London. Everybody knows Rick Baker, who was the makeup artist that designed the werewolf and the transformations and everything. He was the guy behind the prosthetics and stuff. So he kind of trained somebody else. I don't remember the guy's name at this time, but he trained. He had like a little bit of a protege, and that protege went and worked on The Howling.
That whole thing.
When if you notice the whole nose thing and stuff. So they did come out at around the same time, but
that was
I don't remember which
that
came out
whole
first.
Tightness to the it also brings. I agree with you, Rachel. American, I love that.
It's a beautiful movie,
but this is definitely really so. Rachel says it's also about unity within a community.
Yeah,
I get that. I totally get that. We here at the Parlour always try to make people feel comfortable and not feel, oh, look, we accept all of that. We make people feel comfortable. They're not customers, they're clients, they're guests in our home feel and a vibe. And I think that's why people are coming in.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why we get a chance to talk, because I talk to everybody. If you know me, then you know it. So I ask people everything.
Well, the wonderful thing about the Parlour, and I'll be very, very honest with you, is that you guys opened this store with the intention to create a community around things that you like, things that you are passionate about.
Right.
And that is like an energy beacon.
For
It's
everybody
kind
else.
of like a homing device for all of us weirdos,
Right.
so to speak. And I say it with a lot of love. So, even me, who's not the gothiest of goth, but, goth is a sensibility.
Right.
Who's not-
Yep.
But there is a certain vibe and a positivity in here that makes people want to. Hi.
Yes, the parlor says hi, darlings. So,
Hello.
but in your opinion,
Yes.
what would you think is an oversaturated genre in the horror?
Right now?
Just in general. I have mine.
I am so over zombie movies.
There it is.
And now
I am.
and I'm sad to say it because The Exorcist is one of my top 5. Let me see I want to see what number it is on my list. Yes, I have a list. Do I carry it with me? Not all the time, but it's number 3 on my list, The Exorcist. Possession films, they're starting to become one and the same. They're not all they're not all they're cracked up to be anymore. In the old days, when The Exorcist came out, that was really something. It was really something because, think about like the time that they were in. It was like, right after the 50s, right after free love and all of that stuff. And then there was a need to come back to like these religious like values, these traditions. And The Exorcist came out and scared the homies out of a lot of people.
I get that.
So, The Exorcist was really something, and I also think it was very merited. But nowadays, there's always an old priest and there's always a young priest. There's always a young girl who's become possessed and they have to save her. There's always something like that, and it's the same old, and maybe she's not, throwing up. Maybe she's not throwing up pea soup. Maybe she's not,
But you could go through certain things. So let's say, mine was exactly the same thing. I do love zombies. Don't get me wrong. I do. I love Night of the Living Dead.
Well, yes.
That's a great
the original.
movie. But that's an original. But The Walking Dead, they did a fabulous redoing or retelling of something that people dread. I mean, that really is something that people dread because it's that big question mark. Could or couldn't it happen?
It could happen.
So,
but you know what I think is going to happen more than a zombie apocalypse would be a robot apocalypse.
AI.
We're living in it right now, y'all. And, for my line of work, sometimes I do use AI, but I use AI as a tool. I'm not sitting there trying to make people.
Right. But I think
that's a very thorny path to try.
But I think that what that did was rejuvenate a genre that was there. It was something that wasn't as utilized as it was. Because let's face it, you had the Night of the Living Dead. The second one was good. It was a Day or Dawn or whatever.
Dawn of the Dead, I think.
I think that was the one when they were in the
mall.
Which is, if you know me, I would be, if I was a zombie, I would be shopping. So I'm just letting you know I'd end up at a mall. But my whole thing is, I think that because people were like going in their genre.
Rachel said people thought during COVID that zombies would magically appear.
Right. But like in my opinion, that genre was rejuvenated. But if you went back, horror movies were almost at a not even a pulse.
It was very hard for the horror fan. I'll tell you what
changed it. Scream.
Oh yeah, in 1996.
Scream changed the whole thing. For it to automatically go boom into the movie and not wait 45 minutes for anything to really happen, it started it off with a bang. And I was in the theater when I was watching it, and it was the movie, period.
And you know what I liked about Scream? That it was a little tongue-in-cheek. It was a little meta.
It was camp.
It was camp, and it was fun. It was fun, and it brought it brought a lot of fun back into the horror movie genre.
I think
and
it did it
the whole
back.
thing with the, a little bit of a twist. In the late 90s, the mid to late 90s and early 2000s, horror movies had like a different kind of resurgence. They were a little glossier. They found their audience with the teen kids. You know
Right.
what I mean?
These
so
teen-
they kind of catered to like teen horror.
Right.
And
The teen
stories.
kind of kids during this time frame, I think, were really smarter, and they had to adapt to it. That's why with this, I mean, I saw, Tarot. I saw The First Omen. That
How
was the new one.
Tarot? Okay. I want
I
to
mean,
see
I don't
long
mind.
legs.
I
That's
don't
the
mean
next
I don't mind. It did. It totally did. Rachel said that. Scream did change the horror genre.
It sure
But-
did.
I think it's definitely due for a change. I think that something's gonna come down the pike that's gonna do it, because I don't really think, if you think about it, I don't really think that there was a lot of witchy movies.
In the 90s, well, there was The
There
Craft.
was The Craft, which
There
was
The
fabulous.
Craft.
Nancy, please, love it. But I think a lot of the other
Practical Magic.
Practical Magic is
But that was like
horror.
a cutesy, and
Yeah.
it was like all loving, and that's wonderful.
But
But-
I think that should get a stronger something. I
Well-
think that needs some pulse into it too.
And
Well, they had the TV show.
they had
the Anne Rice's The Witches of
oh,
something. What was that
yes,
one?
the book, Lasher, like the witches
forgot.
of whatever.
But there's
The
that
Witches
one.
of Downton Abbey.
There you go. We just made that
Do
up.
tell. But I'm glad that you brought that up, because in times of uncertainty, people do turn to that horror to get like their fix. So before it was the zombies and like I want to say like the end of the 2010s, it started like getting really crazy, especially with The Walking Dead. But then in 2020, what happened? What was the big thing that happened? COVID happened, and there people have this
Yes,
need,
thank you, Rachel.
especially right now.
It's The Witches of Mayfair.
The witches. Thank you.
Yep,
The Mayfair witches.
right.
But right now, people have a lot of issues with how crazy society is right now. Some people think that it's like a godless society, that we need that, we need direction, we need this. People are afraid, but also, that now you're starting to see this resurgence of like demon movies, haunted house movies, possession films, stuff like that. And you're also starting to see a lot of people turn to spirituality, and not necessarily Roman Catholicism or Judeo-Christian beliefs, but people are starting to really look into themselves and start to think, what can I do for myself?
Well,
What
we
path
said
should I
that.
take?
But we said that
spiritually? And that's why the witches and stuff like that.
Well,
all
we
of that
said that
stuff is
for a
gonna
long
come
time,
up.
that a lot of people were talking about the religion, and during COVID, people, not saying it's better or whatever, but they would go to that level and that piece, and you're like, okay, well, I think that people went to the more mystical, spiritual
Yes.
side, and because there were things that were able to be done and touched and felt
Yes.
more so than it was in something that they might have grown up in. And I think that that's where people, and more interest and involvement in that
Involvement in
spiritual
their
realm.
yes, involvement
in.
in their own spiritual path. Because when times are uncertain,
Right.
what's the one thing you can control? You can
Yourself.
control yourself.
Right.
So you can't always follow what these outside people are telling you. And when I say outside people, talking about the people that are running the world and things like that, because they're all batshit. So you got to turn into yourself and find that peace, and then give your own 2 cents and goodness into the world. So that's what I think that a lot of horror is going to start turning to not necessarily bad witches, but
And Rachel's right, because Rachel is right. So I do feel there are and there has been. American Horror Story did a political.
Yes, The
scare.
Purge.
The Purge. Get ready. Anyway, I think a lot of that stuff. So you might see more of a, because I think that horror really does
The Omen.
adapt themselves to the time period of what people want, or what people are experiencing in the news. And I do believe that it's going to go more of a political way or apocalyptic, more Mad Max, more Thunder, like that whole
Thunderdrome, the whole Mad Max.
Whole
I mean, there was a
thing.
reboot of Mad Max not too long ago, and there's another movie coming out. Oh no, Furiosa. There's
that's already on.
Yeah, that's already
on
out.
demand.
Yeah. So,
but I think
I'm
that,
behind. Horror Mom is behind. But,
I don't watch a lot of it because there's so much out there, and I can't even tell you. I think that our other friend Alan Cole is on here. Alan is another big horror fanatic, and I think that we always talk about going, it was okay. I think that sometimes people don't understand that the promos are better than the movie.
No, sometimes the trailer shows the whole movie, and then you go and watch this pile of excrement.
Oh, what is Rachel saying? Oh, in a crowd, yeah.
Don't lock
I get
yourself
it.
in a
Trust me. As long as we have movies and popcorn, and maybe a cigarette, because Rachel smokes too. So, I think so. Your two, what's your top 5? So we already know The Exorcist
is number 3,
and then we know that it's American Werewolf in London,
or The Lost Boys,
Boys.
A Nightmare on Elm Street is my number 2.
Okay.
I love Freddy Krueger. I know he's a child killer.
No.
But
that movie came out in 1983 or
384.
I remember the movie was in the theater quick. It came out. I got it on the VHS, and I watched. My mother watched it before I watched it. I was older. She said, "I will kill you if you let your brother Michael watch this. I will kill you," because my brother would have been in her bedroom.
And he wouldn't have gone to sleep, right?
I loved Freddy. I thought that, it was a awesome movie. Hi, John.
Hi.
My whole thing is that movie did rejuvenate
the slasher genre.
The slasher genre.
No, it began the slasher genre. It didn't begin it. No. Because I really think that it might have been even Halloween.
Halloween was the rejuvenation in 1978, but even before that, it was Texas Chainsaw.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Which, if you are a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, please don't hate me. I liked it, but I loved the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2.
That's a fun one.
I loved the second one. Loved it. It's part of my top 10.
Ooh, yeah,
I love it.
Is he in there? Is he on my top 10? Texas Chainsaw? No, he's not. But that's because slashers aren't my thing. I like demons, monsters, ghosts, haunted houses, and
I love haunted houses
and possessions. But
what
and
else
werewolves.
is on that top 5 list?
Let's see there. Oh, so The Exorcist is number 3. Number 3, The Exorcist. Number 4, Rosemary's Baby. Number 5, The Witch and Hereditary. I'm an A24 girl. Sorry, guys.
I saw The Witch. Okay, so even this is like, I know,
a slow burn.
But here's the thing. I know that things are fake. I get it. I get that the things are fake. I just don't know why things are adapted into a movie that hurt children, tiny, or animals. I just don't get it. I don't think it does anything to a movie. Unless Cujo, which I love Dee Wallace. I saw it once. I can't watch it. I can't even watch Old Yeller. I'll cry the whole time. I can't because I just don't like anything. Like I'll watch something, I get turned off. I will get totally turned off. That's me. As soon as I see it, I shut down. I'm out. You can watch it. I'm out. Like I know that people are going to laugh, but this is a little showing vulnerability.
It's okay.
I think when I watched Jurassic Park, the newer one.
Oh, yeah.
And they left the island and the last one was on the pier trying to get off and he was screaming. I was so upset that they did not.
You start
because it was
for
me.
The
I would have went and got him. I know he's a monster. It's CGI. I know you think I'm crazy, but this will solidify it. I felt bad. I was upset over it. But I can't watch Hereditary because of one thing in it that I heard. I can't watch it. And I'm a big fan of what's her name?
Oh, Toni Collette.
Yeah.
She was Colletti. I don't know.
Toni Collette. She was in Krampus, which is a fantastic movie.
Krampus is great. Oh, let me put that on my list.
That's a great movie.
I was trying today to remember all of my horror movies that I ever watched. And I was trying to, things that not ever watched, but things that I watched movie. That I loved.
But what else is on your?
Well, so that was the number 5, and of course there's Halloween 1978. The Fly with Jeff
original
Goldblum.
Or Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis.
I have a thing for David Cronenberg movies, and David, if you watch any David Cronenberg movies, he's got a lot of body horror. So I watched The Fly.
Thank you, Rachel.
Children.
Sorry, go ahead.
Bye. Nice meeting you, Rachel.
This phone keeps. Yeah, so I get that, but so those are your top. I love a horror movie, but I love so many different ones that I think that I love everything. Well, Halloween 1, Halloween 2.
Yes, Halloween
love them.
2. How about Halloween 3? How do you feel about that?
I like Halloween 3, but it should be considered as a separate
It's something
entity.
separate. I think that
but
that's
I grew
what
on
that
me.
guy wanted. The creator, that John Carpenter wanted Halloween to be a bunch of different movies, all having to do with Halloween.
Right. So 4, I liked. 5, I loved.
The Return of Michael Myers. I loved Halloween.
After that, I don't really think it gave me the same thing because, Halloween was just so the music, everything. Oh, John Bigger. That Rose I'll tell Red. You right now, Rose Stephen Red is King. On my top. I love Rose Red.
I would love to do a Stephen King podcast just to talk about. I mean, there is a podcast that deals with Stephen King, but as one of the episodes,
Rose Red was amazing, and I think it's an underrated. That and Storm of the Century were fabulous.
I remember Storm of the Century too.
That was a fabulous movie, miniseries. It was done in August, whatever year it was. And you were in your house, and it felt like you were cold.
Yes.
It was great.
So good.
But, I could go, I love The Fog. The first one, the second one, I didn't like it.
I love The Mist.
The Mist was good. But,
Sleepwalkers.
Sleepwalkers, I love that because
people turning into things.
That was a whole thing. But they don't do a lot of that kind of movie. Like that. Transition.
Like Metamorphosis.
Yeah, they don't do a lot of that horror as much as they did.
Quick question.
I love The Shining, John.
Which Shining?
The first.
There was
one.
a miniseries of The Shining too, which
with
I
Rebecca De Mornay. It wasn't that bad.
I
didn't like it, and Tim Daly. I didn't think it was that bad.
What I liked about it was that it was like it was a little more. It was a little closer to the book, and it actually had the topiary. Remember, the topiary came alive.
The cat. Yeah, those that I think were great. I originally,
Stephen King hated the first Shining. Also, John Bigger.
Oh.
He also hated it, but I also think that Stanley Kubrick had an ulterior motive But that goes into conspiracy theories.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like the haunted houses. So I loved House on Haunted Hill, The Haunting,
Yes.
The Legend of Hill House.
I love
which
that.
is not the series.
No, not Hill House. From Mike Flanagan, the movie.
The original movie with Rowdy McDowell. Or Malcolm Rowdy.
No,
Rowdy McDowell, the one from Planet of the Apes. I thought that was a great movie because it was just this like psycho thriller.
Yes.
Like mental. It
was it was like almost like a mystery, almost like
yeah. But I mean, like even the camp part of it, I love Clue. I can watch Clue on rotation.
So you probably like Ready or Not.
No.
No, you didn't like Ready or
Not?
No,
I did not.
Oh my God.
I don't. I think my whole yes, it was great. It is great. But I love that movie. Even Dead of Winter, John. If you haven't seen it, Dead of Winter was with him, and it was with is it Mary Steenburgen? I think it was Mary Steenburgen. That was the one that was married to Tony Danza in real life now. But that was a great movie. That was a great movie. Okay. The whole idea of putting something out there for someone to do an audition, looking for someone to take someone's place because they did something, and then bringing them in to have them act out what they wanted to play the character of who the person was. It was just so awesome. And it all happens during a snowstorm. Love it.
You like those things where you feel like you're stuck inside.
I'm stuck inside and trapped. That was a great thing.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Talking about the Halloween.
Yeah.
This is an age-old debate. Do you like the Halloween movies that Rob Zombie created?
No.
Why not? I don't particularly.
I can tell you that there's only one line, and it's in Halloween 2 that I liked of it. I thought it was violent. I thought it was too. Maybe I love Rob Zombie. Don't get me wrong, but the Rob Zombie movie that I like, hi Sarah. The Rob Zombie movie that I liked was House of a Thousand Corpses. Hands down, his best movie. Period.
Rob Zombie is very gritty and violent, and either you like him or you don't like him. There really isn't
no
in between.
Don't. I always say to people, make sure if you have tires and gas and whatever you need when you go through Texas. So just want you to know that's a place. I think, and you're right. If you lead into, I think if it's too gritty, I don't like it. I think that if it's too realistic, I think it becomes more on a border. Because I always felt that horror movies were like a roller coaster. The excitement, the adrenaline, that feel.
Yes. So you want to have that, and so you're willing to have that suspension.
But that I don't like. I like that feeling of here and that But I get it when people love that thrill rides. Mm-hmm. But to me, a horror movie is a thrill. Oh Lord, I sign out just in time. The question about Rob Zombie on Halloween. I didn't really care for it as much. We
don't want the Rob Zombie fans to come after John.
Sorry.
So
I didn't say I wouldn't watch it. I would watch it, but not my favorite.
It frequently becomes a very heated debate about Rob Zombie's Halloween and how he puts his wife in everything, and how he messed up the monsters and things like that. I choose to look at things as they are,
right,
as separate expressions of art.
But I don't.
I'm not a fan of Halloween 2. I did like but Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, I didn't really like the first Halloween. I like it, but a lot of people have this issue with why does Michael Myers have to have an origin story?
But they all have to have an origin story.
He just is. He's like a force of nature.
Well, they tried to make it more realistic.
Exactly.
My whole thing is Friday the 13th. The first one was great. The second one was great. The third one was tolerable. After that,
I like number 7.
Well, yeah. What is it? The one that had
with the psychic girl, and then she put him in.
Laura Park Willock Lincoln.
Yeah.
Who was on Knots Landing?
Yeah.
Don't get me started. I could go into all these things. There was her, but then I didn't really care for that. I tolerate it. I'll watch it. But the other one was the next chapter that had those were okay. When he went to Manhattan, it sucked. But I'll tell you this: when they did
it sucked when he went to Manhattan.
Jason versus Freddy, that was a fun, fantastic movie.
That was a
that
popcorn
I felt
movie
like
for
it
sure.
went back to Scream, that it rejuvenated life into two icons, but they were starting to deflate. Like, how much more of Michael Myers can you do? But they were going to do, it was Freddy, Jason, Michael, and Ash from Evil Dead. That series was great. Evil Dead 1 and 2 were great. The third was campy as hell. I really did like those types of movies.
Evil Dead's on my list too.
Right.
On my top 10.
So we're sorry we rambled off. So you were going to talk about, like, just throw out some of the topics that you were going to talk about.
Some more,
and then,
but actually, this is kind of the kind of stuff that I want to do on my podcast. I want to talk about horror and kind of like, what does it say about our society, and what does it mean for families, for people in general? Because of course, like I said before, I want to highlight moms and moms like me who don't necessarily have time to watch horror movies. So, I'll do like little things like, like 5 movies you can watch that are under an hour and 30 minutes. You can watch it while you're folding laundry, or movies to watch when your kids go to sleep. Stuff like that. Books to read.
Right.
Talk about horror films and how they relate to motherhood. Like, for example, one of my favorites, Rosemary's Baby, or Hereditary, or The Witch. Those are laden with motherhood,
right.
with motherhood issues.
Absolutely.
So not everything will be about film. There'll be talks about books, certain horror literature. Right now I'm reading a book called The House That Horror Built, and it's about...
I'm sorry, John.
Oh, sorry.
He keeps freezing.
Sorry. Don't be cold.
I don't, yeah. Put a shawl on.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. And I think that's really great. I think that it's sort of deconstructing the fact of it. But, you got to be very cautious with some content, because
because it's not always appropriate.
It's not all
for
appropriate.
Kids. If you're a mom, you're gonna have your children with you sometimes, and you're not going to be able to listen to the podcast because some of the
content might be a little bit over the top. Right.
So,
but the thing is, it's like, you're not the only one out there that loves this stuff. There's a lot of moms that are horror moms, that are goth moms, that are, moms that, they love to share their love for something and incorporate their children. And you could see and feel the love grow from the younger side as they vicariously live through that, remembering how they felt when they saw things. So I think it's a total connection, and I think it's great. And like I said, it's the way that people want to do it. It's the way people feel it. It's the way people love it. And it's not a bad thing, and it's none of your business if you think it is.
It ain't none of yours.
There you go. So when do you think you'll be starting your podcast?
I'm looking to start before spooky season, so around August.
Okay.
Admittedly, I have a lot of things in place, but I'm just so nervous to begin recording because I think nobody's going to want to listen to what I have to say. I'm just a mom. You know what?
There's 4 people on here. I think that
if 4 people,
it is what it is.
4 people.
It's 4 people. It's 4 people. And the people, and you share it with the people. Yeah. You'll get used to it. I wasn't great in the beginning. I hated it. In the beginning, I was like, oh my God, do I look okay? I don't really care.
You hated it?
I did not like it.
Oh, but you're so
because dynamic. I don't like how I look on the thing. So I don't really see it that way. I see it as it's a love of something that I feel really excited about talking about. I mean, there's been some great opportunities for people to come on here.
Yeah.
Sarah is one of them that has come
I
on
watched
here.
Sarah.
Sarah's great. Sarah is a historian. Oh, by the way, if anybody sees this, if anybody's interested, we're doing July 20th, 7 o'clock, calling of the from the
Thank
beyond. Sarah takes you because she is a historian who loves this. She's also part of Twin Crow Tarot, and she will take you through how and why and when and where of seances and how it adapted through and changed to more modern day tools to communicate with spirits on the other side.
Spirits are people
so
too, Sarah. I heard you, girl.
So there are still some spots available. And like I said, it was fantastic both times. We got things that are amazing.
You said you had some activity happening.
There was activity. Sarah actually had gotten. We had someone doing the with the
headphones.
Right, headphones and the blindfold. I forgot what they call it. Sarah, what do they call that when they do what we did? Well, anyway, one of the people that were a part of it, named Jill, she was sitting here. The lights were whatever they were dim, and she was just saying things that kept coming through the spirit, the Estes, and she was talking as she heard what she heard, not hearing us, but hearing whatever she heard. She would say it out loud, and we heard a whistle. Then she said something, and then a whistle, and then it whistles again, and we have it all on a recording.
Wow. So
which
you have
was,
EVP?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Which was great. So it coincided with what?
I love all of that.
That was great.
I love all of that stuff. Sarah, I would love to have you on. Well, first I have to meet you. But
yeah, but you could. Sarah's here. Sarah's really is a great facilitator. She's part of the New Moon Academy that we do here at the Parlour. We're very proud of that. And like you said, we do build a community with that.
Wonderful.
You know, the people that love it, curious about it, we really put it out there. She said she loved to chat. See, you got a first guest. Sarah's great. You have us. We'll do a guest thing.
Oh, girl,
you.
Of course, yeah.
But is there anything that you might want to just say to people to look for you or whatever? I think we're rolling down what the thing is there. So copy that or.
Well, you can find me on Facebook.com, Momster Mash Podcast.
That's right, going across the bottom.
Going across the bottom. And I'm on Instagram. My handle is @MomsterLolo. So
there's that.
You know, just be nice to each other, make good choices, and don't be a malaka.
There you go.
That's
malaka here.
That's my guide through life. Sometimes I am a malaka, but there are a lot of others.
I'm going to say this. Hi, Jill. And hello, Mother Mary, because I know she might not be watching it right this second, but she will watch it later. But yes, so I'm really glad that you came. I'm really glad that you came in this store.
For the opportunity.
You should be really proud of the family that you've cultivated.
Thank you.
Because they really are fun.
Thank you.
They really are. I mean, they've been here one time, and they say, "When are we going back? When are we going back? I want to go back.
I want to see those men. I want to see those men." My daughter, she's just, she's like this little Puerto Rican Irish, like little Wednesday girl running around, touching everything. She
Me and her father were like, "Don't touch that. Don't touch that. Stop touching."
And then my son, who's the exact opposite, he's the ice to her fire. They balance each other out, just like my husband and I. We balance each other out,
which is good. That's a good thing to do.
But we accept things and not afraid to try new things. And my kids are not afraid to ask questions. They're not afraid. I think
that's cultivating a. I jumped in, so no, don't worry about that. I think that you're cultivating a family that works for you, and that's a very good way, because they're not the person, or that they're not the child of someone that lives at the school, that they have the right. They're excuse me, they're your children, and you do what makes it right for you and your family, and I think that's great. And I think that you putting out there will spark conversations that are there or wanted, or I watched it and I think this part, how did you react, or tell your children how to think about this?
Yeah.
Because I don't think she's sitting there putting all these things like over the top pieces to 7-year-old.
No.
It's more the beginnings and the onset of the journey within horror, and I think
And
it's
if they
great.
want to continue, they can ask me for movies, or they can find their own.
Right. They don't have
They
to
don't
watch
and
it.
they don't have to like what I like.
Right.
They don't.
Right. It's not
But
like
at least they know what's out there.
correct.
You know?
And that's great.
So
And it makes
I'm flying by the seat of my pants as a mom. So, and I'm sure
you're
that
doing a
there are
good
many
job.
others.
You're doing a good
So,
job.
thank
That's
you.
all that matters.
Thanks.
So, but thank you very much for
Thank you
coming.
so,
I
so much.
appreciate
I
it.
really enjoyed
It was
speaking
good.
with you.
It was good. It was good. It really was. You were good. I know
Thank
you were
you.
nervous. So
Thank you. I was
nervous.
extremely nervous.
But
Thanks
yes,
so
and
much.
we miss our co-host Genevieve, but
Yeah.
she was here in spirit because she is
In spirit.
spirit.
She went to the store to get us ice creams and
Yes,
tassels.
and yes. But thank you very much for being a part of Parlour Tea. Tune in next week, next Tuesday, for Parlour Tea. I don't know who the guest is,
But we'll be there.
but
7:30.
we'll be there, even if it's just me. I do know that Sarah is on. Thank you, Genevieve. I know that Sarah is on, and I know that Sarah knows that we did talk about talking about haunted houses, haunted locations, ideas and thoughts of where you could go if you're like a horror mom or goth mom or someone that is looking for some wonderful opportunities to go and investigate and explore.
Well, one of the things that might worry someone like me is they're afraid to bring something home. What happens if you're afraid to bring something home? What do you do to help
You tell
people?
them you're not allowed to come home. You're not wanted, and we don't need anything. And you could also take your own sage, and you could sage yourself on that. Mm-hmm. But you say, you stay here. You're not allowed to come home with me at all, or anyone in my family. And they stay. They stay. A lot of the people, they stay. So, but I think it'll be a great series to show people where they can go and do these types of things that maybe are more home related, like closer to home, because things are so tight that I think it might be fun. You know, it's 4 hours or 4.5 hours you could go, and staying over there at Lizzie Borden's house could be very expensive. But going to Lizzie Borden's house and do an investigation in her house, you just need tools, certain ones, and it's not the bit, but it's fun.
But especially for a family of 4, or maybe a date night, and things might be a little tight in this day and age.
Right.
It's so wonderful to have a place here that facilitates, a local place that facilitates the, entertainment and also experiences that are different. They're not. It's off the beaten path. It's
Correct.
not. It's not the cookie cutter.
No. It's not.
McMansion.
I have one more plug and we're out. July 7th, which is this Sunday from 4 to 9, I Heart Horror. They're amazing.
Yes,
guys.
To go.
You guys got to go. There's going to have hot rods, and there's going to be a ton of vendors over there at 349 B Matawan, New Jersey, on Matawan Road. And it's on our Instagram. It also is at Town Square. Be there because it's fun. And the guys that run it are really very orientated to donate a lot of money to a lot of organizations. And I think that's amazing. And we had them on last week, and they were just wonderful. So show the loves and come. And I greatly appreciate everybody. Thank you all for stopping by, and we'll see you next time on Parlour Tea. Bye. Thank you.
Tell me what.